Say something!
Hi, I'm Dopey. Wanna play? Hello everyone and welcome to day 19 of Terrorthon, the Silver Age of Horror. We previously discussed the Bronze Age of Horror, but now it's time to go a little bit further forward in the history of this glorious art form. So to be clear, the Silver Age of Horror is referencing the 50s and the 60s. So I hate to bring this up, but unfortunately it's essential. On the 6th and the 9th of August 1945, the Japanese cities Hiroshima and Nagasaki were hit with atomic bombs. And from this point on, the Universal monsters weren't going to cut it anymore. The world had now seen what man was capable of with the power of science in the wrong hands, and so this became the new focus of everyone's paranoia and fears. And so, the creature feature era begun. I'm sure you thought I forgot about this guy, but in 1954 Creature from the Black Lagoon was released, the final of the classic Universal monsters, a true product of science fiction gone wrong, and one of the all-time great creature features. Now of course we've already discussed creature features at length. You know all about that side of the 50s horror scene. But what about some of the horror movies that didn't fall under that umbrella? Well, we had Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which came out in 1956, all about alien invaders and creating clones of us. It was a very different type of horror to the creature features which were popular at the time. And also, the British film company Hammer had dipped their toe into horror beginning in 1957 with a remake of the Universal monsters, the first one being The Curse of Frankenstein, starring Christopher Lee. So then we got a remake of Dracula in 1958, also starring Lee, and a remake of The Mummy in 1959, also starring Lee. These movies were much bloodier and more gruesome than the Universal originals, because of course times had changed and they could get away with a lot more. And then to round out the 50s, William Castle released The Tingler in 1959, which was very popular at the time, probably the most successful of William Castle's works. But before then, in November 1957, the whole of America, and thus the whole world, found out about the crimes of notorious serial killer Ed Gein, which are too monstrous, disturbing and lengthy to go into in this video, but all you need to know is that the world was now hardened to horror after witnessing something even worse than any movie could ever show in real life. And so, Alfred Hitchcock capitalised on this, releasing his movie adaptation of Psycho in 1960, the first ever slasher which pushed new grounds in so many ways that we couldn't possibly list them all here. And so with Psycho, the floodgates were now open, audiences had become hardened to what they saw on screen, and it took some serious extremes to begin scaring them again. In 1963, Alfred Hitchcock went even further with gore with The Birds, which was shot in colour, making the horror even more real for audiences. Now I'd just like to take a moment here to say that although Carnival of Souls bombed when it came out in '62, you still need to watch it, even if it's not historically significant. Throughout the whole decade, Hammer Horror continued pumping out more of their movies which pushed the boundaries of what you could show on screen. And then in 1968, a double whammy, Rosemary's Baby, which was profoundly disturbing and is also still referenced to this day, and of course Night of the Living Dead, which changed the face of horror forever. And legend has it that the MPAA rating system was introduced because of this movie and its impact on children, who were of course not supposed to see the movie, but they did anyway. And that, my friends, signalled the end of the Silver Age of Horror. If you factor in what we discussed during the Creature Features and William Castle videos, we have essentially done a comprehensive history of horror in the 50s and 60s. But, of course, horror didn't disappear at the end of the 60s. See you tomorrow.